Uh-huh.
Am I in the screen? I never can
Oh, that's
tell.
beautiful. Wow.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
I
that's
Nice.
wanted to add some over on this. I don't have the weeds on the far
yeah,
side, but
yeah,
I didn't redo it. I was gonna redo it just to make it cleaner and fresher looking in the background.
yeah.
But I learned a lot just from doing it.
Oh
Yeah,
my.
that's I love the colors, the subtle skies. Sometimes less is more. And when you look at
Yeah,
that, it's just so to me it's very soothing.
I
I'm not a
lost a lot.
fisherman, but uh
I lost
yeah,
a lot of my peach tones, is which what
yeah.
I wanted back in. But you reach a point where you're just muddy in it.
Yeah, I like the subtlety of some clouds in there too at the top there. That's just
I just couldn't
yeah.
resist.
Hold that up again. I didn't see the make sure you got the reflections. Yeah, it looks like yeah, a few more. I think you're missing some reflections. As I was looking at some of the depth. Um,
Yes.
I can't tell there, but anyway, that's
Well, my
really awesome.
It
my,
is.
Wow.
It,
nephew fishes up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, so I wanted it to kind of look more like mountains than our
Yes.
picture.
Yeah. 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 You can even put a city back there if you want. Okay, that's excellent. Thanks for sharing. So we're going to work a little
it is.
more on that. And you'll be working on the more of the plants. That's what I'll be working on with you. Uh, and then also today we'll be talking about the next piece, and we'd like to get it started if we could. And that's the figure. So this one, we're going to look at not only the face, but also the body. This one is a tough one. I think it'll be a great challenge for us. But we'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll also going to talk about what colors we're going to use and we'll pick out the pigments that we'll be using. Okay, anybody else have a question or anything before we crank it up? So those of you who have this, Margaret, did you do anything since the last meeting?
Unfortunately, no. I still I need to work on the plants.
Okay, hold on up for a second. Let's see that. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's looking nice. Okay. Very good. All right. So we're all working on the plants today. All right, let me highlight this, and then we'll rock and roll. So the plants. When I was looking at this, couple of things I did not like after it dried. I don't like the blue here. So one of the things I'm going to do is anytime you have that, I'm going to put a gray wash over it first. I mean, a green wash. Wait, no. What's the opposite of blue? Oh, orange.
Orange.
I'm going to put a orangey wash over that and see if I can subdue that a little bit. I like this little line in the background. Little suggestion of trees over here. I don't know. I was thinking that might be a church. But anyway, I didn't want to overdo it. That was just kind of plain. So subduing a color by using its complement, I'm just going to use an orange straight out of my palette. And it probably needs just to be a little more yellow orange, probably. I'm going to see if, yeah, a little bit toward the yellow side. It's almost like Indian yellow, isn't it? I'm going to go over that and see if it does anything. And I think it does. Yeah. We'll find out, especially here. And if it has too much yellow, it'll turn it green anyway, which I want. So I want to vary up. I never put anything 100%. I always constantly varying the color a little bit, maybe going more toward the yellow here and there, a little bit toward the yellow. And then I'll go back maybe to the orange again. And that definitely looks green there. See what it looks like when it dries. That's the key. So anytime you have a color that you want to subdue, you can always put mud on it. But you always remember it's probably what you're going to have. It's mud. I just generally use the complement of it. And the same thing over here. And you probably all of you do that. So if you do it, this is just a review. Yeah. And also, I just want to just a little more suggestion of some of this color coming through here. Because there'll be some reflection of the sky, a little more than what I had. So that's a little better, a little better. So I'm going to use for my weeds or my plants, I'm using an 0. That will be for the little small ones. And I'm just going to mix up some ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow to it. It'll turn it more greenish. A little more burnt sienna. I don't want, really what I want is just a very, very dark green. If I wanted olive green, I could, burnt sienna has a little red in it. So it turns it kind of an olive green. That's what I want. And I could also add red to green to do the same thing. Yeah, maybe even a little, okay. So I'm thinking that's kind of what I use. So let's take a look and see if it works. Let me do a couple practice runs here. So I start up and always find out which stroke is easier for you, up and down, sideways, and you can always position the paper. Oh, I like the way that's drying back here. Position the paper. So I can do a pretty good stroke that way. And I like the fact that I even skipped it. Suggests it's so light you hardly can see it. So it's just a nice, barely touching the paper. And I'll come across sideways with a brush and suggest maybe some leaves here and there. And this will dry, of course, a lot lighter. It always does. The darks dry a lot lighter. So that's kind of the approach I take. Then at the bottom, I'm just mimicking what I see. I'll see if I can, I'm going to make the lines kind of go with the ripples. If I can think about it. Some don't need hardly any at all. And sometimes you put, is sometimes surrounded by some other little plants. So sometimes you can do this, just put a little base to it.
I'm so confused.
So anyway, and this will try to mimic these little subtle waves. And I missed that over here. I should have kind of made this kind of stop at every little wave. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So let's put one here where it's really going to be obvious. So when I come down on the waves, I'm going to kind of break it. It's suggesting that maybe the wave is breaking the view. I think that's a better, yeah, that really suggests that the waves there. And I should have done it for here. I'll see if I can lift that. I think that's a much better look. And the same thing here. And that really suggests the waves.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
See that?
Hmm.
Makes sense to you? So here, I'll do another one. I'll break the waves right there at that upper part. And then I'll hit it again here, then maybe down here. So even that subtlety of breaking it up, the wave reinforces that there's a slight wave in there. So now it's just a matter of having fun putting growing plants. Huh? Oh, I see some nice little shorties here. That'll put a couple shorties in. I like that.
I have a question about reflections.
Yes.
I understand that they're supposed to come from the object toward the viewer. But in the question of something like this, it looks like in the photograph, it looks as if they're going pretty much straight down rather than angling toward a single vanishing point.
Yeah. Well, they go pretty much straight down. It looks like they pick up, someone pick up the wave. And actually, what's happening is the one, see this one right here at an angle?
Yeah.
That actually is wrong. I'm glad you mentioned it. It's going to be more like this, that angle.
So it comes toward a vanishing point then.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
that reflection should have been here. So it's not straight. So I'm going to fix that by putting one straight up. That would be that one. So if it
Oh,
goes,
okay, I see it in the photo now. It's
Yeah.
confusing because some of them are, it's hard to
And,
tell
yeah.
what's reflections and
Yeah, it
what's
depends.
stems.
Yeah, look at the plant. If it's a diagonal, let me put one this way.
Yeah, I see that now.
See, that reflection is going to go like this,
Nope.
right? It's at that same angle in reverse. So it's a reflection. That's really a great point. I'm glad you mentioned it. I haven't put any diagonals, but I would be here in a second. Well, I did put one in. I got it wrong. Now, sometimes I kind of like how that lightens along here. Any kind of staying consistent, but the variation is nice. And that's not going to have much of a reflection at all. But every one of these that you add, of course, you can add too many, really emphasizes those shapes in the water. It's a kind of a contrast. The more you put in, the more it does appear to be waves. And so I'll just keep adding some. And every one you add is another data point. Let's see, so let's go one like that. For the eye. I'll have to come back here in a second and put the. Now, one technique is you can lighten up the reflection, but this one is, because of the light, it is just so mirror-like. And so the reflections, and you don't have to get them perfect because the eye puts all these together and you don't even notice if you get one wrong. It's amazing how the eye helps you tell your story. If you get just get those basic shapes right. So over here, it's a lot more dense, but I don't want to get it too dense, but then again, I like lots of the data points. Here, they're going to be bigger. These are closer to us. You're not even going to see the ripples of these down here. You can see the more, so then the foreground is very helpful in suggesting depth of field. These ones I'm putting up front, sometimes it doesn't help. You have to be kind of careful. It depends on sometimes the composition. Sometimes it's not always helpful. And I'm lightening up a few of them, making some of them a little lighter than others. And I like that some of them you show kind of a base, maybe something has fallen on it. So this one's like that. So a few of those you can ground. I think I want to get one, some of these a little bit higher here. So it goes up in the yellow. I'm going to make those just a little bit lighter to suggest distance. You know, things further away get lighter. So I'm putting some back in here. No, I don't want it to look like he's painted on, so I will I'll put some that go right across that line. And then don't forget this area here. We definitely would expect there to be some down here. I'll come back and see if I can get some of the shadows of the ones I just put in. There won't be much shadow in the ones in the distance. They kind of get lost. So how you doing? Fun, isn't it?
I would have never showed you mine. I misunderstood completely, Ronald. I thought this was our homework and that I had to try to finish it. This is very helpful. I appreciate you. I just didn't know that you were going to continue. I thought you were going to start working on that other picture, and I just wasn't ready.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not saying that I wanted to. I'm saying I knew that I didn't know enough about this one to start.
Oh.
And I would have waited because, I really didn't know what I was doing, but I thought, that.
Well, this works out maybe even better because now you know what questions you want to ask or what you want to look for.
On my next one, I'll know to do it like you're doing it right now.
Yeah, it's I kind of like the way I think I'm pretty much done with how many I'm going to put. Maybe a couple. I'm going to put a couple of big ones yet in the foreground.
Turning into a masterpiece, Ron.
Oh, I know. It's for sale. Anybody want to buy it? So anyway, that's the approach for doing, I love these kinds where it challenges me. I've never done these before, so it was a fun challenge. The only thing I don't like is it looks like in nature, I think there may have been, I'll show you what I mean. In nature, there probably would have been some areas that were grouped together. Maybe like that. Just some more, to me, it looks like it's just too contrived. Now that's a good grouping over here. I think I might even thicken that up a little bit. So anyway, that's just, I like the way this is dried in the past. I don't know if you can tell, but it has a greenish orangey tinge to it. And I like that. And I put over top of the blue, it really gave it a nice green that I like. So that was helpful. Okay. Does anybody need more time or do you have any questions?
No questions. I'm just enjoying the show.
Enjoying life. What a concept. Time for a little coffee here. So what
Always.
we'll do next, whenever you are ready, we're going to move to the other painting. We've got a few things we need to discuss, and what we'll do is together talk about what color. So here's the print. And then there's my version of it. There's some similarities to it. Okay. I like to put my own, touch to it. Oh, by the way, just for interest, I got to show you the back of this, just for your information. Yesterday, I did a demo, and the goal in the demo was to do a portrait under an hour and a half. It actually took 2 hours, but I did it in an hour and a half. So this was the portrait.
Oh,
You
my.
did that in an hour and a half?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
And anyway, I've got the video up on YouTube. If you're interested, I'll send you a link, but it's
Oh,
fast
great.
forward. The link,
Right.
the video is 15 minutes.
Yeah, I
Very
love
Okay.
good.
All right. I'll send you a copy of that. Just
Yes,
because
please.
because I
Yeah.
like you.
Me
You
too,
should
Ron.
see what I do to people I don't like. Okay, so let's take a look at this guy. Okay, I'm gonna get the smaller print. There we go. There he is. Keep it out. All right, so let's look at the colors and we'll get out. I'm gonna clean off my palette and together we'll put together a palette of what colors we're going to use on this painting. And so we're just going to take some time to read what we see. So do you all have a printout? I want you to look at mine anyway, but do you have a printout?
Yes.
I do.
So let's
I
write.
did.
Good. Well, that'll come in quite handy. Use the back of that and my marker. Okay, so what I do is take a piece of, in this case, just student grade watercolor paper, just to make sure, at least it shows the color right. So what I'm going to do is test some colors and see if I can first match the lightest color I see in his face. What I want to do is match that. Let me see if I can come in just a little bit. I can. There we go. So it's this isn't white. It's an off-white. And what I'm reading, and see if you all agree, it's a little bit yellowish. So it's a nice light flesh tone. So I'm going to start off with that lemon yellow, knowing it's not going to be yellow. I'm going to add just a little bit, lemon. I'm going to add a little bit of Indian yellow. Oh, between the two, it's getting close. And I'm going to add a little bit of my Rose Opera. So let me see what that looks like. So I'll paint the side here and see if that's a match. It looks like it has a little more rose in it. Huh. Wasn't expecting that. Okay, there's a little more rose in it. So this is how I go through and pick my color. That's it right there. You all agree?
Yeah.
Okay, you can disagree, but as long as you agree with me. Okay.
Well, it's a little darker, but yeah.
Yeah, so let's write this down so we forget. So that is, I started with a little, it's got a lot of water. So that's about 20% paint, lots of water in it. So it's going to be very light. So I have lemon yellow. If you do not have Indian yellow, you can just add a little bit of orange to it. It'll get close. But I have Indian yellow, which I really like. And that came pretty close, but then I added some, I don't know if it's opera rose or rose opera, but rose opera. And this is about 20% paint. Okay, so now on the same head, there's another thing going on, but see the area now where it starts getting darker up to the forehead and here? I'm going to use that same color, but what I'll do is increase the amount of paint versus water and see if it's close. Sometimes that's all you need is just, so I'll put mostly paint. There's no water in this. And see, it looks very orangey. We'll see what that looks like. Oh, I don't know. It does look orangey. So back over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try adding some burnt umber. Not burnt sienna, burnt umber. I just see a little bit different there. I'm going to see if that's closer by adding burnt umber. Oops, burnt umber. Yeah, I think that's closer. See that? Hopefully it shows up. That's a little closer. A little more burnt umber, and that's it right there, I think. So that would be the dark. So the dark is going to be same as above, plus burnt umber. Those of you who have taken my class before know I do not use blue on the flesh only as a last resort to get dark. It's always a great gamble to do that. So on the flesh, I try not to put any violet or blue. Now, burnt umber actually has a touch of blue in it. But because it's embedded in the paint, it's different than adding like blue or violet to that. It's much different. So you still get the darkness of it, but you don't get the mud. See, that's a nice pure color. It's not muddy, and it's still very transparent. Okay, makes sense to everybody? Yeah. All right,
Yes, sir.
so we've got the face. Now, I want you to notice something. On the other side of this face, we have a light. So this side from the left is natural sunlight. And it tends to always have a slight yellow, just, I might say slight yellow. Yesterday I was teaching a class and I said, I didn't say slight. I said, it has a little, I said yellow tinge. So anyway, the gentleman started painting it and oh my goodness, it was like yellow. He said, well, you said it had yellow in it. So anyway, I have to be careful sometimes what I say. So as we move over here from this color, it turns more pinky. So because the light coming from this source is an incandescent, maybe even orangey, kind of it goes more toward the orange side, and which means it adds a little pink to the flesh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try adding a little bit of the crimson red to that and see if that will give me that color. We'll put it here. Yeah, that's pretty close. Can you see that? That's so I've taken what we had up above and added, let's see what the lightest would be. Yeah. And added crimson. And that's really close to these colors down here. I'm wondering though if it needs more yellow. No, it's just right here. See that? So this is what I do before I start painting. I try to figure out what colors. So I'm going to write down. It's crimson. I think it's word it starts with a Q. I forget now what it is. Yeah. So it's the above plus crimson. Okay, so some are asking, well, is that really a coincidence that you go down here and you just keep adding one? Well, that's the way I read it ahead of time, so I have to confess. And I knew that if I start here and go over, it probably is going to, I know it moves from yellowish to a rose. So I knew that if I go down this direction, it's going to give me what I want. Now the brown hair, it's actually black and brown. So let me get another pad here. I hope this is helpful. Is it helpful, or if you want me you just want to paint?
No,
No, it's helpful.
great.
What's that?
It's helpful.
Okay, good. All right. I thought maybe you said, no, I just want to paint. Okay, so let's talk about the hair tones. And what I see in the hair tones are, of course, black. But I see some brown, and also as it comes over to the right, it picks up a little bit of that red color from the other light. So the reflection over here is almost a white, off-white. So I'm going to start with burnt umber this time. You try to stay within, see if you can make the colors from the same basic colors you're using and stay within that. It makes it more, the painting fit together. So if I just take a random brown, it will look like, you won't tell what it is, but you'll say something's off about it. It's because you're not using some of the same primary or the same basic colors. So I try to stick with that. So here is burnt umber. It's very brown. And I'm going to see what I'm going to do is I'm going to tone that down a little bit with ultramarine blue. Okay, so now I've got that mixture. Now I'm going to see if that color is the lightest of that reflection, because it's not white. It's probably going to be, yeah, that's it right here. Look at that. That is the lightness of the hair. So that's going to be that light. Get better. And then as it moves over, so let's find out what we did there. So this is burnt umber. Plus ultramarine blue. And as it gets darker, I'm going to see if that's still the right color, but just increase the dilution of paint and make it darker. And yes, that's the color I want. as it moves over, it does have a tinge of brown. So you can see those other little colors in there. It's going to be here. And then I'm going to see if ultramarine, lots of ultramarine blue will be the dark up there. And I think it is. So yeah, that's almost black. So that has more ultramarine blue. So that's going to be the darkest spot here. Yeah, you can save, I'll tell you what, by doing this, you can sure save a whole lot of time and a lot of paper. So what we have here is we increased percent of pigment, nothing else. And here we increased blue, ultramarine blue. That's ultramarine blue. So there's our hair. And I think the same thing applies here. Now, as the hair moves over here, all I'm going to do is add some brownish color to it. I mean, orangey color. And I think what'll happen, it will be pretty close to what I want. I just need to increase the amount of pigment. I'm just going to put cadmium orange, I believe this color is cadmium orange. I can put yellow and red here, but I used orange before. Kind of like to stick with that. And let's see. There's just some spots up there. Yeah, that's really very close. That's it right there. Can you see that up against here? It actually, I think, needs a little more blue in it. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. That's it right there. So it's going to turn a little bit that color. All right. So what I did was added orange. And I'm going to keep this little help sheet, cheat sheet, handy. And as we paint, the first coat of paint that we put over the face will be using these colors. And I'm going to show you. Do all of you have this ready to paint?
Yes.
No,
Yes, no?
no for Margaret. I'm not ready, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, Margaret, do you need anything else on the fisherman?
I need to keep working on the grass.
Okay. All right. So let's see. How do we want to do that?
I'll watch.
You want to stop for a minute and just watch?
Yes, I'll just watch
Okay.
and then come back to the video later.
Yeah, very good. Okay. All right. So here's the sketch of the gentleman. And first thing I'm going to do is I've got those paints, if you notice, still in my palette. That's going to come in a little handy. And the first thing we're going to do this time is we want everything to be quite soft. So I'm going to apply water, just a light water. I don't want it to drip and I don't want it to sit. So I'm going to keep my paper at an angle, at least 35, 45 degrees. I don't want to do this when it's flat because it'll puddle and it'll produce blossoms and other weird things that we don't want. We don't want weird things, except for Patsy. She likes weird things. Okay. All right,
Sometimes.
Patsy?
Sometimes.
Okay, sometimes. All right, so let's start. I'm going to use a mop brush. This one's a Raphael number 9. Number 9. The key for your wash is that it holds plenty of water and paint. So if you use something like this, a slight exaggeration, it's not going to hold much paint. You'll be there for 3 hours trying to get that. It'll dry first. So the first thing I'm going to take some clean water and carefully put a nice light coat. I'll go all the way up here to the hairline because some of that shows. I'm just putting a light coat of water. I'm not going to go outside the face. It wouldn't hurt if I did, but it just makes it easy. And the glasses won't matter. And I've already decided, see, I'm going to go right down the nose. See some of my, over the ears, over here gets water. And down to the neckline. Anyway, I used a lesson learned. I used the watercolor pencil for this, so it just came right off. So note to self. So now I'm going to start with this color, which is the yellowish color. And I can find that, and I just keep this handy. So I'm looking for that color here. So I'm going to start there. That's it. As I move over, I'm not going to go real dark. I'm just going to stay with the tones. As I move over, it gets a little bit more like this. That's the color we chose. And I do see a slight pink in the nose, but I'm not going to worry about that. And up here, I'm going to take a clean brush to soften up that edge a little bit. Okay, so just keep going on. It's a very, very light coat. So you can see it's not drippy wet. It's just damp. So what happens when it's drippy wet like that? Anything you paint on here is going to be a soft edge. I've lost all my lines, so I'll have to make the best of that. I think I can see some of them. I like working in the dark. I also missed a little bit here. That should not have gone over there. So while it's wet, got a little carried away under his nose. I'm just going to clean that off a little bit over here. Okay, so the key now, it has to dry. So if you got a hair dryer, it would come in handy.
Did we do the ear? I can't see.
Yeah, I did the ear too and the neck. Yeah. And I wasn't worried too much about the color. I just actually it's just the lightest color, and none of this color shows through on this side. None of it will. It all gets covered. Here's probably the only place that most of it gets shown, right there. So as it's drying, if you are finished, got your first wash on there and it's drying, it's just really tone right now. We're just setting a tone. So there's some things about this we'll take a look at. So if you get your reference drawing out, your reference photo rather, let's set this aside, let it dry just a little bit. There's a couple of things is the light that gets caught in this three-dimensional person. Everybody's three-dimensional, but anyway, see that little light above his left eye? That shape is really important. And a little touch of it there at the glasses. And then as you go down, the white that's captured on the left side or his right side of the nose. Well, that's great. I had paint on my pointer. Anyway, that white there. And then if you follow the shape, that shape of his nose is also, it's orangey because of the light source, and also a shadow that's cast from his eyeglasses. So we want to make sure we get that right. It's very important in the story we're telling. There's also a slight white suggesting the shape of his forehead above the eye. This shape and the white shape in the darks really give us the information to what the shape of the forehead. Not highly important, but if we get it wrong, it'll be important. Then, of course, the shape of the eyes here. Now you go down to the lip, because the mustache covers over some of it, we will still paint it. And I think what we're going to do is use opaque paint instead of worrying about masking it. We're going to use just a touch of opaque watercolor paint. And but however, we're going to paint this. That'll have some magenta or crimson color. Gets very dark in here. On this color right here, where I'm pointing inside that's going to be crimson and violet together to make a real dark red right there at the side of his left side lip. And as it comes across, gets lighter and then catches the light. To show the shape of the lip, this little line underneath the lip is important. It gives you the information of whether the lips are full or what size they are. So it's important information. We're not going to paint each hair. We're going to paint the shapes, and we're going to let the eyes tell the rest of it. And what we'll do, we'll just come back in and paint with the opaque, just a few of those hairlines, just enough to suggest to the viewer or the eyes there. And you can see the beard is awesome. Light side, part of this gets hit with light, and then it goes very dark back here. Up here, the beard catches the reddish color. So if you go to the ears, what's interesting on this, the ears are actually lighter than this area here because it's catching that second light, which makes the drama of the painting even better. So what we have is a shadow cast in the ear from the fold of the ear up here. Very light here. And these are going to be soft edges and then hard edges. We just need to know which of these lines are hard edges and soft. This light area is very soft. That's dark in here. And then the same here. These are all soft edges, but along this line is a hard edge, and then a fairly hard edge for the shadow. And then, of course, the hair in the background. The other thing very interesting about this is this white of the collar, suggesting there is something casting a shadow. Again, it adds to the drama of the composition. I like that. I hope you guys can see this. Yeah, I can. And we're not going to paint the little flourishment of the vest. It's if you get back a few feet, you can't even see it on the reference. Then over here, we're going to save the white for the white shirt. Probably going to use that same off white to tint it. Maybe it looks like it has a touch of blue. It may be catching a little bit off of that turquoise couch. And we got to decide later or at some point decide if we're going to include the turquoise couch. I kind of like it, but it's one of those things I'll wait till later. Then the other thing that we're going to learn are these folds, how you really paint the folds. We're not going to get too concerned about this this color. We're going to tint it, but not going to overdo it as much as it's in the photograph. Over here, the folds of the vest, it's going to be lighter at the top of the fold. Remember that lighter on the top because the light source, darker on the bottom, lighter on the top, darker on the bottom. So anyway, that's the analysis of the reference photo. So now
Ronald,
let's get back to painting. Anybody
Ron-
have any questions? Yes.
could you spotlight your screen so we're not just looking at the
Oh,
whole
I didn't
portfolio?
know I would. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm not spotlighted.
I can see everybody. Is it my phone or is it that you aren't spotlighted?
Okay, what view do you have?
Ordinarily, I can just see you.
You can just see me?
No, that's what I would like.
Okay,
'Cause I have,
look at your view settings and see if you have gallery view.
I wish I knew how to do that.
Yeah,
Let's see.
not on iPhone, but there's a setting on view. It's usually a button. It might be at the top.
Okay, well, I don't want to
That's
If
okay. Well, it's
is it-
important.
able to just see Ronald.
Yeah, what you do is you want to click the speaker view. Because now
I
you're on the gallery view.
Yeah, but I don't see how to get out of it. I wish
Well,
I could.
yeah, it should be a button that you should see right now somewhere. It'll say view. Change
Okay, well,
view.
I don't want you to stop. I'm just looking at 1/4 of you. You know, the screen is 1/4 you, and I
Yeah.
wish it was all you.
Yeah, you need to be on speaker view. You're on gallery
Ah.
view.
Is mute, stop video, share contents, and that there's 4 participants. And then there's a more, but when I open that up, it's just, maybe
Right.
it's under meeting settings, backgrounds and effects, or chat is all I see.
Huh,
I'm gonna open up on my iPad next time.
okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
got
mean-
it. I have it on speaker view. If you were on speaker view, you'd be able to see it.
Thank you.
Okay, so is your painting dry? I usually touch the back of my hand. Mine's fairly dry. And I'll find out pretty quick whether I need to adjust it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like I've lost all the lines. So we're going to pretend like we have a background color here. So the question almost 100% of the time is, where do I start after I get that? And where I start is I just pick a spot that might be the best place to establish the darkest color I'm going to use. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint inside of the glasses here. I'm going to paint this area. So I've got to look pretty close. And what I'm going to do is see if I can copy that shape. So I'm going to use the colors we decided on. Lemon yellow, Indian rose, there it is, and some rose ochre. Yeah. And I will also need some burnt sienna for the dark. And we're going to see if that will do the job. I need to get a little smaller brush. I go to number 2. Number 2, okay. So let me zoom in on the eye so you can see it. Now this isn't an easy one. And I felt that we would be better off if we were challenged a little bit. We'll learn the most by being just a little bit challenged. So as I look in there, there's that dark area. We've chose the burnt umber. And if we need to, we're going to put crimson. We're going to put crimson in there if we need it even darker, especially if it hits that side. So let me turn this on. There we go. And that's way too zoomed in. There we go. So now, this is tough. We're going to pay close attention. I know all of you are paying really close attention. I'm going to start with that dark mix I have on my palette. And I'm going to leave if I can. So I'm just painting that, starting off with that shade right here. Going to see that little white spot. I'm going to leave that. So that's what that kind of looks like. And then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to get even a finer brush. I'm really going detail now. Jeez. But this is the only, I really focus on detail on the eyes and the mouth. And I do that because it's where the expression comes from. Now, I'm adding a little water as I come down. What I see, it goes a little bit lighter here. So just a touch of water to lighten that up. And I'm going to leave that white spot I see. There it is. Okay. And then just with a clean brush, I'm going to come up here and soften this a little bit. And continue on. I don't have to have this perfect. I do see some more crimson there. So I'm gonna add a little more my crimson here. I just see a touch of more red in here. As it comes over, it gets pretty dark in here. What I'm going to add is some of this other I had over here to make it a little darker. So it does have a slight touch of blue. I don't know. Cancel that blue idea. I don't like it. I'm just going to increase the amount of paint I'm using. I'm just trying to find those shapes. There they are. I got it. Got that shape. So far, I'm hitting every one of them. And you have to really look close, and it gets lighter. This shape gets lighter. So I'm just painting these shapes inside, just focusing on those shapes inside the eyes. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit here. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Well, lighten that, it makes the other side look darker. So I'm going along. Yeah, this is what I wanted. Yeah, that'll work. Kind of, you say, well, it's not much of a shape. You could paint the whole thing solid if you want, and it would still give you the same effect as long as you had the shape right. So then I come back, I'm looking to see if I got everything right along here. So it goes a little bit lighter right across here. So here, this is just plain trying to, and it's very lighter, much lighter over here. So I add more water. See, that's very light. This is one of the areas I actually, I work on detail. I'm still not what they call a ultra realist and then I'm going to come back with some real dark right here. It's the eyelash. And since the eyelash is not part of the skin, I will use black on that. So I'm going to kind of let that dry. And that's kind of the shape I see in there. I think that'll work pretty well. I'm going to make some slight adjustments. We're just doing the same thing we did before, just in a more confined space. That definitely needs to be darker right along here. So I'm just going to keep working it until I get more what I see. There we go. Yes. I'm going to let that dry. I might want to lift some of it after it's wet. Well, I'm gonna lift it now. I'm working on the Fabriano Artistico paper, and it's extremely easy to lift. Those of you who used it know what I'm talking about. I'm going to let that dry. I just need to adjust the values. If I do too much now, I'll be better off waiting, let it dry, and adjust them by lifting. So I did leave a little line here. I'm going to see if I can leave that white line. That's not going to be easy. There we go. Now I'm going to move down to the nose in this shape right here. I'm going to be painting that black or dark. By the way, I never do the glasses as dark as you see them in the photograph. I leave them lighter, then I come back and look later and say, do I need to, 9 times out of 10 is I end up making them too dark. And 9 times out of 10, if I wait, I find out that looks just fine the way it is. And that's true on the eyeglasses. Also true on the eyebrows. So I'm just adjusting this shape I see here. I'm going to soften the lines a little bit on the edge, that shadow. And then it kind of goes from a light to a dark. So that's that shadow here. So I go ahead and come down and bring and connect that shadow with the dark on the nose. So when you watch this again, the video, you'll be able to pick up on this, and you can put it on pause, paint a little,
Yeah.
and you'll find that kind of helpful. So there's the rest of that shadow. And then there's an area right there. You see right this? That's soft. I got to get soft that. See, soften that up. I just take a clean brush and just soften that up a little bit. And it needs to be soft here. It always is soft where it hits the roundness and the light is dispersed. And it's going to be soft over here. And just that little bit is beginning to give some nice information of what we got. See if I can go on a little bit. There we go. So yeah, even the suggestion of those shapes are enough. So I'm going to adjust those now. It's dry, so I can do a little lifting. And I'm going to adjust that a little more. I don't quite like, but it's very easy to adjust it now. Just with a clean brush, I smooth out some of those lines I didn't want in there. Let's smooth that one out. It does get a little darker right in here and in here. Yeah, that's the shape I wanted. And a little darker over here. I'm using some of this brown I had for the hair mixed to get these darker. So right now I'm just trying to find the right values. I'm going to lighten this little shadow up a little bit here. Got a little paint in there. I can. It's not showstopper. But if I can, it's going to make a difference. Yeah. Just a little bit there. That's a little bit lighter. And down here it gets a little lighter. I'm just lifting a little bit. And over here, it's on the other side. That's much darker. There we go. And let's just need to soften some of this up a little bit. Just the values, and we got it. Then I'm going to use black for those area where the eyelashes would be. The reflection like that. Kind of tedious. I'm gonna mix up some crimson and a little violet for that, just the darkness under his nose here. Just see if I can get that value right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Goes across here. Then with my color I've been using on the face, I'll put this below and I'll meet these two together and blend them. And as I blend them, they just soften up. And then all I need to do is just to bring some of that down. I'll come back with that shadow here in a second. And already it's starting to look like something. I just made these edges a little rough down here. That'll serve us well when we go to do the mustache. All right, now this is dry. I need to get this a little darker here. And I'll just put someone on here and I'll smooth it out. Loosen up soften the edges up on it. And look, it just starts to have a beautiful contour look. Now that white there is not going to be white. So I got to match the values. It's pretty light on the tip of the nose, but because don't have, you all put your first wash down, so it'll already be the right color close to it. Because I lost my lines, I'm not going to be able to do that. Let's see what that looks like without some reflection. Yeah, I like that. I think that's going to work really well. It's a little apprehensive at first because this is not easy painting. This is a test on whether you can look and see. It's actually a test whether I can control this button too. Now see it from the distance, how that's starting to really pay off.
Can't see a thing.
Yeah, I see it.
I see the light. No, that's another topic. that goes pretty good with the theme. So now I want I want to show you how quickly this area comes to life. Show you what I mean too. I usually show you what I mean. So with my number 3, I'm just going to do a very light wash, and it's got that yellowish tinge to it. Same color we put up here. So I'm going to come down with just a very light wash over all of it. I'm going to put it over the whole thing. And as I do it, it helps even to soften some of the
Oh
lines.
my, yeah.
Woo! And then I'm going to just make it ever so, yeah, I'm going to have to let it dry before I do that. Maybe, yeah. I'll make this little area a little darker. Soften that up a little bit. So when you do that, then it really, the area comes to life. Yeah, that's cool. That'll work. It's not exactly, but as long as I get the basic shapes right, it'll turn out. You just don't have, well, there we go. Now, can I do this? Okay, all right. I'm going to do the glasses now. We got 45 minutes left. It's usually for whatever reason, a lot of people have problems with glasses. They think it's a solid black line or brown line. It's not. So I'm going to mix something else. Over on this side, I have that the color for his hair, and the glasses are pretty close. Remember, we came up with the burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and then we increased the pigment to make it darker. And then on the orange side, same thing I think applies pretty well to the glasses. Now, I'll start off with that black. It's got lots of ultramarine blue, and that's the darkest. So ultramarine blue, where am I? Ultramarine blue, burnt umber. There it is. And I'm going to use that with I'm going to have to use a finer brush. I'm going to vary these colors a little bit. I see on the glasses. I'll show you what I mean. So first I'll do the easy part. I'll do the bridge. So I'll come over to the bridge. First, I'm going to test to see whether I can always test, see if I can do a line. So that line, yeah, that's too thick. There we go, like that. So a little practice just before I put that down there. Saves me a little time. So we're going to go across here. I'm get the brush. I'm pretty close, see, on the end of the brush for accuracy. If you hold it back here, you won't have any accuracy. So pretty close. That way you can really control it. So I'm going to go across here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some crimson right now. I don't see it, but I just think it'd be cool to vary that up. So this is more of an interpretation thing. So it gets real red right here. So I go back. And there it is. That's what I wanted. So it goes like this. And see with that color there? Come on, focus. It's wanting to focus. Come on. Well, anyway, trust me, it was really nice. probably the best part of the whole painting, right? This little spot right here. Okay, now you can see it. See how it turned from a black to a grayish, then over to that crimson color? That's really what I was wanting to do there. I just need to adjust the edge a little bit. I'm not, a lot of people, and they say, well, you're very realistic. I always say, well, why don't you take a minute, look a little closer at the painting and then say that. And then they'll say, oh, I guess not. And some ways it's a compliment. If they think I'm a detail painter, it means I pulled it off. You know, I let the eye do some of the work for me. The viewer's eye. So I'm going to leave a touch of white. Don't have to. I lost it. That's all right. That will be just a little simple brush
Can
stroke.
you scoot your paper down?
Oh my, yes, I can.
Thank you.
And thank you for telling me that. It makes for a better lesson. A lot of students like to see it.
Oh, help us.
Oh, I know. I can't help myself sometimes. Okay, so I come down and then I'm always varying this. It's never one color. And I emphasize that with a lot of people. But it seems like it just finally clicks with people. They'll hear me say it. They don't know what I'm talking about. And then something happens, it finally clicks. But I'm continually changing these lines so they're not just a solid color, you know, like putting a black line down. I'm being more careful than I normally am. Just because it's a class and you guys would give me a hard time if I screwed up. And then up here, I'll just make that just ever so slightly lighter. Just little highlights. Probably won't be noticed, but I'm just gonna change that shape a little bit. That's what I wanted. See, look how close it doesn't look very good, does it? It's like, man, that's pretty sloppy, Ronnie. And that's what they called me in high school, Ronnie. That's pretty sloppy, Ronnie. And no, just hang in there. And if you look at every watercolor painting the way it's supposed to be seen at a distance, that's 10 to 15 feet away from the painting. And see, it's a little bit, I have this, not as dark as what I see here. I see it's quite a bit lighter. And I think this is going to be fine. I don't think any darker is going to help at all. Matter of fact, I'm going to leave this right here lighter than what I see in the picture. All right, in a second, we're going to come back and see whether I got close. And then I'll let you decide whether I got close. And anybody who has a compliment gets an A for the day. Now I picked this because I really think all of you needed a little bit of a challenge. So let's see what that looks like now from a distance, if simulating 15 feet. Yeah, they'll come into play here in a second. So let's see if it's starting to look. Okay, what do you think? I think it'll work. I'll do a little adjustment with my opaque. But I like leaving that little white line right there, just enough to suggest that's a reflection. What do you think, Patsy?
Oh, I've always wondered how you do it, Ron. This is
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. I love it.
Okay, now what we're going to be doing is this applies to the full body. We're always just painting shapes. I painted shapes. Shapes are lines, you know, but all of them are shapes. So let me zero in a little more here. Yeah. Okay. Any questions so far before I continue to just get carried away and lost in my own painting?
Oh, no questions. Just enjoying the view.
See, there must be on the, trying to find the infrared sensor. And I think it's on top of the camera now. All right, so now I'm going to come down. I'm going to do the ear because it's a nice shape. In the very center of his ear is a very dark, that area right there is a magenta with a touch of blue in it. So you can still see it. I'll move the camera in a second. We're good. So what I'm going to do is there's the crimson, add a little violet to it. There we go. That's a dark crimson. And I'm going to start where it's the darkest. So I got to find it first. There it is. Okay. So there I'm going to start. And it's just basically a couple of brush strokes.
Oh,
Just a couple of brush strokes away. And then that line will get softened. And as I go down, I'm going to put more red into it than the violet, and it'll change shades a little bit. So it gives me that darkness I wanted up here. And I'm going to soften the edges. Just follow that line. That's a hard edge over here. And you can see how wet it is. And a little bit, I'll move it so you can see without the reflection of the water. I'm going to soften these lines up with a different brush. I get sometimes so carried away. I'm using the wrong brush and I'm not paying any attention. I just keep on painting because I'm in the moment. So I soften that line up. It gets a little orangey up here. There's some light. So I'm just mimicking what I see here. Bring that down. %, magenta. Yeah, I'll hold it so you can see it. That's the shape there. And it's got a little light right in here. Just gonna soften that up so it's not so. And I'll adjust that a little bit after it dries. Then the rest of the ear, again, the shadow that's cast underneath this ear crease.
mhm.
Had a little run, some of that ran down there. I'm sure you guys saw that. And then I'm going to use a little more of a rosy orange here to suggest that. I'm going to lift that in a second to make that one spot lighter. I'm just going to lift that area, just make that a little lighter. If you pull some out, it'll come back together. So that's what it's looking like so far. And then I'm going to use mostly a lot of orange to really put that tint that I'm looking for at the top. Going to keep this pretty light. Lots of water. When I say light, that means lots of water. I'm going to come back and darken this after it dries, the other areas. That's pretty much the tone. It's got just a slight orange touch to it. And then I'll darken these areas here. See these areas on the earlobe, and the rest of this I'll come back in, because at this point it's just going to mix and mingle too much for me. So I'll come back to the eyes, and I'm going to do the I'm going to use the color for the eyebrows that we had for the hair. And what we decided there was the burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and increase the pigment as I needed to make it darker. And then I could even increase the umber, the ultramarine blue, if I wanted to go black. And then if it's in the orangey area, I can add a touch of orange to give that look. So let's give it a try. Ultramarine blue, burnt umber. Okay, so I'm not going to apply that. Let's pull that down a little bit. I'm not going to apply that directly on. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the flesh tones first. Get back to the flesh tones. Burnt umber. Ooh, crimson. Oh, that should be. There it is. I had the wrong one. So that's pretty dark. So I'm going to start with that because the eyebrows aren't here, but I'll start with this color. That's very close to what I was looking for. Coincidence. And before I paint anymore, I'm going to soften up that edge while it's still wet. Well, it's still wet. There we go. See how I soften that edge up? And I'm going to soften this edge up a little bit. Always, the key is just keep looking at I keep the photograph right here. And I just keep looking at it and saying, oh, what's there? This can I make it mimic that? Now I'm going to go over to my black I have mixed up and mix it with this color. I don't want it 100% black, but when it dries, it'll have that blackish texture to it. Okay, and I'm going to soften up the edges. And then there's no black over on this side. It's more like this. And then see the black is in here. And then I'll just go through and soften up that edge. Uh-oh, too much water, but actually that'll work out kind of nice. Sometimes mistakes help you out. So that's what that looks like. Again, I never have any shape that's all one color. I just mix it up. In this case, I put a little black. What I want you to see is, based on the experience, what you learn is that it dries different than what you see. And that's just based on experience. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side of the shadow of his eye socket, eyelid. So next week, all of you will have started this. So we're together, we're gonna do the beard and all kinds of stuff. And what I'm really looking forward to is showing you the how to do the folds in the shirt. Got a couple little, but you can already tell, see how this is drying? Now I can come back and I'll maybe darken a little bit. It's a little bit light, but that's the effect I wanted. See that grayish color? So it suggests that there's something going on in there. Let me see if I can charge it. There's something going on in there that's making that darker. So I'll just add a little bit of that black in here just to enhance it. And it even looks more so now. Oh, I dropped water in there. You don't want to do that, but I did. Okay. I dropped a load of water in there. So I'm back to where I was. But anyway, we're gonna let that dry before I pass up the opportunity to screw it up. This value here that yours will be the right value because you're over the wash. And then now I'm going to come back over and adjust the other eyebrow while I have this paint. And it looks like this because hard edge and then softens down here. And the same thing up here. The eyebrow has a slight, I put a little black in here. That mixed up. And I'm just gonna make sure I don't have a bunch of water in my brush and screw this up again. But anyway, just soften up the edges. And that'll be just enough to suggest. And you can see, I like the way that's drying. It just needs the values fixed, but color-wise, I love that look. And the ultramarine in there actually, I forget what they call that. Patsy will know. When the paint leaves a little texture in there, the name for that. But anyway, any questions? Is this helpful?
Are you talking about granulation?
Granulation. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It has a little granulation from the ultramarine blue because ultramarine blue tends to granulate. And so anyway, when this dries, I'll come back and just do another layer over top of it. I like the effect. It's not dark enough, the value, but I can fix that by just putting another layer of the same thing over it. But instead of just, here's the key learning I hope you have is you don't just put, in this case, black in there. I mixed a little black with the paint. So I wasn't trying to paint hair follicles or gray hairs or anything like that. I mixed it, and the black only mixed in this area where I thought there would be eyebrows. The rest of it is tinting and shading from the skin. So that's hopefully what you learned. Then I'm going to come down here. While I got this paint, I'm going to add, I see just a shape right here. See the bottom, just a little bit of the eye right there. It's not mandatory, but it would be super if I could catch that, what I see there. So it's right below here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a suggestion of black. I'm going to let that dry right here, kind of like that shape. That may be just enough to give me what I want there. See that? It's got a reflection in it, but there you go. I'm going to leave that, let it dry. See if I can't sharpen the line a little bit. There we go. I'm going to let that dry. Then I'll paint the skin color underneath it and keep it lighter. So that is definitely darker. So just trying to go after that shape. I'm going to go up now and yeah, that's dry enough. So that's skin color there. And then I'm going to add some black to my color. And that's that same color with black added. And black was made from ultramarine blue and burnt umber. So that's very black. And then I'm going to move it back over to the skin tone as it comes over here. And I'm just going to lighten that up down here as it goes to the, yeah. And I'll have to fix that tone here. In fact, I can help right now. Just soften that edge up a little bit. So what you have, you can see the color has some black in it. So it's enough to suggest that there's something causing it to look black. And when you look away from this, what you'll see is the eye will say, oh, that's her eyebrows. It's a very cool, and you'll see it here in a little bit, maybe. Then I'm going to go back over with my crimson concoction over here and adjust some of these. So it's crimson, not and orange. That's going to be, it's going to look dark up here right now, but I'll soften that edge. Come down, very thin line. And then it gets thicker here. I'm going to put some orange in my brush. And then I'm going to just put some and let it bleed a little bit and soften up that line a little bit. It's a little orange in there. Come back in, soften up those edges. And that's what I wanted. Surprise, surprise. Now you can always mute me if you want to hear it. But I sometimes, if you pay close attention, every once in a while I'll say something important.
Well, I think it's brilliant how you can actually share what you're thinking in
Oh,
words as you work.
well,
And I
good.
love
Well, this is what I'm thinking. Now that can be a little scary at times, but. So then I go across, oh, I like that color, but those edges are a little sharp. And now's the time while they're wet to soften some of those edges. Good, I need to get that a little bit lighter there. Soften those edges. Soften the edges. I know I've said this before, soften the edges. Yeah, that's starting to look, yeah, that's pretty close to what I wanted. This just needs to be softened a little bit here. So again, when we go back 15 feet, once you see the slight darkness suggesting that there's dark hair in there. And when we get the rest of it done, it'll become quite obvious. That's just enough darkness. It's just a patch of black added to it. And it suggests you can do this the same way if you have people that have just a small amount of hair. It's a technique you can do, like a unshaven beard. You want just a touch of something above the, like that. They haven't shaven, they got a little darkness above the mouth, like that. Now the lips, lips are going to be a little hairy, no pun intended. Well, yeah, a lot of pun intended. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm looking at that. I have crimson. I'm adding, no, I don't like that either. I'm going to add some cadmium red to that as my base. That doesn't look right either. I'll go back to crimson. Even though I did this in the beginning, sometimes when you look at it again, like, I don't know if I like that. So across here, I see this shape here. It's just right like that. That's it. That shape right there. And then down here, that shape comes down, then across. And that edge is soft. Across here. So I put the color down I want to use. Okay, I got the color. Now I need to soften edges and put it where I want it. So this edge is definitely softer here. So right now I'm just trying to get those shapes right and the values close. And that's getting pretty close to now. Pretty dark back in here. But this will become darker. So you can see it's just, what I'm doing is just looking real close to what I see here. And then across here is just the top of the lip is just a faint. Like that. See that? Yeah. Now, it needs to be darker down here, but I'm not going to do that yet. This needs to be a little lighter, so I'm just going to lift a little bit more. Kind of like working with clay in your mind, like I'm forming this lip and giving it a three-dimensional look. So I'll have to let it dry to get that last shape in there. That's getting close to what, see how it begins to look three-dimensional? So it just needs to be, oh, I put water in again. It's a rookie mistake. Of course, I am one, so maybe that's right. Okay. So let that dry, and then I'll come back in and mold it a little better to the shape. I'm still debating whether I like that crimson. It's not too late to do something over that. And when I get the opaque paint out, I'm going to lighten up a couple of these little spots up here, just to suggest that lid comes up. It's easier to do it than, well, if you do it like this, well, I'll give it a try. Yeah, well, actually that works. Just underneath that eye right there is enough to suggest the dimensions of the eye. Yeah, that works. So we got 10 minutes left. What would you like to see and talk about in the last 10 minutes? I hope you've enjoyed this. I don't know how many of you got to paint. Anything else, any questions you have?
Ron, when I look at the colors that you use, and I look at the actual piece that we're working from, it seems to me that you see colors darker, brighter, than.
Yeah, I think you mean on the painting?
Yeah.
On the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I don't like the ear colors. You see that?
yeah, I do.
It's too crimson.
Yeah, I see that too.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll come back and probably put a orange wash over the whole ear and see if that changes the tone. And I think it will. Matter of fact, since you brought it up, let's do it right now. What do you say? Because this is just, it's called discovery. We're here to discover something. I'm gonna see if that changes the tone. Just a light wash over all of it. And then I'll have to come back and just lighten the light spots a little bit. There you got a bad reflection on there. So I'll just come back and lift off some of that.
Well, I'm not saying that the exaggeration is a bad thing, because that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Okay, I'll move this so you can see. So you can see the tone has changed quite a bit. I just don't like that crimson color.
Mhm.
And so I think it's going to need, it's got some shaping to do. But that's how I adjust it. I can do some overlays on it and adjust the tone.
Mhm.
And with this type of paper I'm using, it's awesome for lifting. So it's better. Overall, it's better.
Yeah. I see that.
And I think I'll leave it until I put the hair on. I'll just put a little hair back here. And it will make a difference once it's up against a round. I'll show you. There's this sienna.
Mhm. So do you use this paper in your actual paintings? Because,
No, I just started using it.
oh, really?
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sold. I'm an artist person. That,
Yeah. I know I just got them 300 pound stuff, and I love the 300 pound, but I can't imagine being, well, like you say, it's all about discovery sometimes.
yeah. Well, yeah, you use arches, don't you?
I do, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to beat marches. And the reason, I'll be honest with you, the reason I tried this paper is because
Yeah, I
there's
know.
a big sale on.
I,
I was like, well, let's back up. So anyway, it's starting, it changes the tone a little bit, but it definitely is more orange in here than it is here.
mm-hmm.
So I've got to keep that in mind when I put these colors in, because I can adjust that. So yeah, and that's really a very observant point you made there. It's pretty good observation. That's the kind of observation that you have to have. So I encourage you. Anybody else have a comment, question, or an insult?
Oh,
I take them all. I like,
I've got a lot of work to do. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
right now.
yeah, just, I'll tell you what I do. It gets overwhelming once in a while. I really enjoy doing it. What I find is just work on one shape at a time. Like I took the inside of the glasses and did each of those shapes. Just took my time and played with it. And I think that'll pay off for you. So next week, I really would like for us all to do a little more closer to a paint around on this. And if you can get it up to this point, it would be awesome. And stop there. Don't go any further. Then we'll paint together the rest of it. I think.
What do you mean about paint around?
What we'll do is I'll paint and you paint along with me.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll paint a little bit, then you do it, and then
I see.
you'll show it to me, then I'll say something, about it.
I want to ask about red, cadmium red versus Windsor red.
Oh, yeah.
I have cadmium red, but it's opaque. And Windsor red, I think, is more transparent.
It is definitely. I think cadmium red's a little orangey. Just it seems like it's a little bit on the orangey side to me.
Mm-hmm.
Windsor red is definitely red.
Pure red.
It is 100% transparent. And I think the cadmium, most of the cadmiums are going to be semi-transparent.
Oh, okay.
I don't, for the painting like this, I don't use any opaque. So in the Winsor Newton, that means the box would be solid black. That little box code they put on the paint, on the side.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So this is burnt sienna. Let's see if I can get it. See that little box there?
Mhm.
Pigment?
Yeah.
That's clear, it's open. That means it's transparent. Whereas, see if I can find it. Semi-transparent. Oh, I can't find one now, but here's one. I know this is semi-transparent. So this is manganese blue hue. Someone gave me this. But you can see it's got half of the box diagonal filled in.
Mhm.
So that would be semi-transparent.
Mhm.
So you probably know this, but if you don't use Winsor Newton, you know that. But yeah, I try to stay with the transparency because I do, you can see a lot of layers, and when you do that, it gives it a little glow to it, a lot different look, and if you're consistent with your layers. So I hope all of you got something out of today. This recording, I'll try to get it up today and available to you on YouTube, and give you a chance to just hook that up, hit the play button, and just put it on pause, and maybe you'll find it helpful.
Gonna be a busy week.
Yep, I'm counting on all of you to have it up to date too. Boy, the wrath that you're going to receive will be horrible. You know how tough I am. But what I want to do is we'll paint a little bit, and I want you to show me what you're doing so I can give you some tips or encouragement to keep doing what you're doing. It kind of goes either way. And comment. That way, it's kind of like we have a small group, which I really like because we can do more of that, and you get a lot more out of it as opposed to just sitting in a large group and painting along and never having any feedback. And I just don't get much out of that. And I say that because of experience. So, all right, well, have a great week. And again, thoroughly enjoyed it. I just noticed a couple of things I want to fix on this. And there's one side of the eyeglass is a little bit too thick. But I'll fix it. I usually wait till it dries before I do too much critiquing or take too much of a bold step, because after drying, it often changes. So that was your tip for the week. All right. Really enjoy you guys. And this is
Great job.
way too much fun.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Sure is.
Bye all.